The galaxy was dying, from the outer rim to the heart of the core systems. Stars that had once shone bright over peaceful worlds now hung over smoking ruins. The Vorath swarm had come without warning, without mercy, and without a single word of negotiation. They were not here to conquer. They were here to erase. Every battle was the same. Fleets of hundreds vanished in hours. Planets burned. Survivors hunted down until nothing was left. On the capital world of the Galactic Council, the Grand Chamber was silent. No one dared to speak at first. The air was thick with fear. The council members, the most powerful leaders from every known race, sat around the long black table, eyes hollow. News screens on the walls showed red after red. System after system falling. The last 3 fleets were gone. Destroyed in less than a day. The defense grid over the capital had maybe a week before the swarm arrived. It was not enough, Chancellor. Vale finally spoke, his voice dry and cracked. Our strategies have failed. Our weapons have failed. Our alliances have failed. He looked at the faces around him, all too aware that many of them had once laughed at warnings about the Vorath. No one left in this galaxy can stop them, he said quietly. Murmurs filled the chamber, voices trembling with anger, fear, and disbelief. No one? Asked Admiral Kor, a grizzled warrior from the Terrell system. The Chancellor hesitated, his eyes dropping to the floor. There is one, he whispered. The room froze. Every council member knew the name he was about to say, but no one dared speak it aloud. It was more than a name. It was a story, a warning, a nightmare. Finally, the Chancellor said it. A human. Some scoffed. Some shook their heads. Humans are a myth, one delegate said. They left the galaxy centuries ago, another added. But the Chancellor's gaze was sharp. They are not a myth, and they are not gone, he said. They left. Because they wanted to. Because we asked them to. The room went silent again. The truth settling like a cold wind. It was an old story before most of the younger races were born. Humans had fought a war no one else would fight, a war that had nearly torn the galaxy apart. They had won, but their methods had terrified everyone. So the council had begged them to leave, and they had, disappearing beyond the farthest star. No one had seen them since. And you think they would help us now? Asked the Scale Ambassador, her voice sharp. They owe us nothing. They owe us nothing. The Chancellor agreed, but the Vorath feared them. They are the only enemy the swarm has ever retreated from. He tapped a control pad, and the room's central display lit up with grainy old footage. Vorath ships turning away, retreating at impossible speed in the center of the battle. A single human warship moved like a predator, tearing through the swarm like it was nothing. The video cut out suddenly, but the image stayed in everyone's minds. Admiral Kor leaned forward, his voice low. If they are out there, we must find them. Several others shook their heads. They will not come, said the ambassador of the Kaleri. They will not answer, and even if they do, the price will be something we cannot pay. But as the debate grew heated, the sound of distant alarms echoed through the chamber. Walls, a council guard entered, his armor scorched. Another world had fallen. The Vorath were closer than they thought. The Chancellor looked at the faces around the table. We have no choice, he said. If we do nothing, we will all be gone within the month. Silence followed. Then, one by one, the council members nodded. It was decided they would search for the humans, even if it meant crossing into places no ship had returned from. But deep down, every one of them wondered the same thing. If they found a human, would they be summoning a savior? Or something far worse? Far away? In the darkness beyond charted space, something stirred, something ancient, something patient. And though no one in the chamber could hear it, the faintest echo of a voice whispered. In the void, they call again. The council chamber emptied slowly. Each delegate walking out as if their steps carried the weight of whole worlds outside. The capital city lay under a shroud of smoke and faint ash drifting from distant fires. The sky above was still lit with the faint glow of the defense grid. But everyone knew it would not hold forever. Admiral Kor walked beside Chancellor Vale. Their words quiet. Do you truly believe they can be found? Kor asked, his deep voice heavy. The Chancellor did not look at him. If they want to be found, They will be. Hours later, in a locked chamber beneath the council building, Vale stood over a long metal table. On it lay an ancient star map, the surface cracked with age. This was no normal map. It was drawn on the hide of a beast extinct for 1,000 years. Its lines pulsed faintly with a strange, organic glow, as if it still lived. Only 3 people in the galaxy knew it existed, and 2 of them were dead. The last living keeper of the map was Admiral Torvin, an old man hidden away on the Deep Space Station Remnant 4 core, and a small escort traveled there in silence. Their ship moving through shadowed trade lanes where broken satellites drifted like tombstones. When they reached the station, Torvin was waiting, his face worn, but his eyes still sharp. "I wondered how long it would take before you came to." "Me," he said. Kor told him about the Vorath, the dead fleets, the desperate decision. Torvin listened without a word, his hands resting on the table before him. When Kor finished, Torvin reached under his coat and pulled out a small black crystal. "This is the only copy of the coordinates," he said. "They will lead you to a place beyond known space. A place you will not survive without their help." Kor took the crystal, but Torvin's hand held his wrist firmly. "Listen to me," Torvin said, his voice like steel. "Humans are not like us. They are not bound by council law. They are not bound by fear. If you call them, they will come. But they will not come as servants." He let go, stepping back, "and once they are here, you will never be able to send them away again." The journey to Earth's last recorded location began that night. The ship chosen for the mission was an old stealth vessel called Hope's End. It was small enough to avoid detection, fast enough to outrun patrols, and strong enough to take a beating. The crew was handpicked Kor himself as commander, a young Kalari pilot named Lysa, an engineer from the Ashari worlds. And to council agents sworn to secrecy, they all knew the risk. If the Vorath caught them, it would be a quick death. If the humans caught them, it might be slower. They left the capital under cover of a cargo convoy, slipping into the black corridors of space where light rarely reached. For the first few days, the stars were the only company. Then the route took them through the Grave Belt, a stretch of space filled with the remains of fleets destroyed in ancient wars. Massive hulls floated like mountains, broken weapons still glowing faintly after centuries. More than once, Lisa had to weave the ship through narrow gaps between shattered cruisers the size of cities. It was like flying through a graveyard, the silence pressing against the glass of the cockpit. On the 4th day, a warning light blinked red. Kor leaned over the pilot's chair. "What is it?" Lysa's voice was tight. "Multiple contacts. Closing fast." The Vorath had found them. Black, insect-like ships darted from the shadows of wreckage, their hulls rippling as if alive. The first blast hit Hope's End like a hammer, shaking the crew from their seats. "Shields at 30%, the engineer shouted. "Push the engines." Kor barked. Lysa dove between 2 massive derelicts, the ship scraping against twisted metal. Sparks flying, the Vorath followed, their beams slicing through the dark. In the chaos, Kor opened the navigation feed and jammed the crystal into the slot. The ship's AI screamed warnings. The coordinates were not just outside mapped space. They were outside reality as the galaxy knew it. Lysa's hands flew over the controls, the stealth drive flaring to life. A bright ripple of light swallowed Hope's End, and in an instant they were gone. The Vorath ships fired into empty space. Their prey vanished. Inside, the crew sat in breathless silence. The only sound, the hum of the engines. When they finally looked out, the stars were different. The space here felt heavier, as if the blackness itself was watching them, and in the distance, through a thin haze of glowing mist, they saw a faint blue light. It pulsed, slow and steady, like the heartbeat of something alive. Kor's voice was low. "Set course," he said. No one asked where. They all knew they were heading to the place where the humans waited. The blue light grew brighter with each passing hour. It was not a star, not a planet, and not any signal the crew had seen before. It pulsed slowly, as if calling to them, each rhythm echoing faintly through the ship's hull. No one spoke much. During the first stretch of the journey, it felt as though their words might carry through the void to unwanted ears. Lysa kept her eyes on the navigation screen, her hands never far from the controls. The coordinates were guiding them into a sector marked in ancient records as the Dead Corridor. Every ship that had entered without permission had either never returned, or returned empty. Ships found drifting here always looked the same. Lights out, engines cold, hulls intact, but not a single living thing aboard. Some said it was radiation. Others claimed it was something worse, something unseen, even hardened. Warriors avoided this place. The space here was not like anywhere else. The stars were dim, their light muted, as if a veil hung over them. Dark shapes drifted in the distance, and at times it was hard to tell if they were wrecks or living things. Once, a massive shadow moved alongside the Hope's End for nearly an hour before fading away into the black. No one breathed too loudly while it lingered in the mess hall. The crew ate in silence, the soft hum of the engines their only comfort. Core's eyes stayed on the door as if expecting it to open on its own. The young engineer, Fallen, kept glancing at the readings on his wrist console. "Energy levels outside are wrong," he muttered one night. "It's like space itself here is tired." Lysa didn't look up. "Maybe it is," she said quietly. On the third day in the Dead Corridor, they found the first wreck. It was a Voroth cruiser, one of their newer models, sleek and bristling with weapons. But it was torn open, as if something had bitten through it. The edges of the wound were blackened, smooth, almost melted through the viewing glass. They could see the inside empty, silent, no signs of a fight. No bodies, no blood, just emptiness. They passed more wrecks as they moved deeper, some alien, some council built, and even one ancient human design from the wars of the past. Each one was gutted, hollow, lifeless. A pattern began to emerge. All of them were facing the same direction. It was as if they had all been fleeing from something ahead that night when most of the crew rested. Core stood alone on the bridge. The blue light was closer now. It looked almost like a planet's glow, but there was no heat reading. No atmosphere. It just pulsed, steady and slow, and deep inside, he felt the weight of Torvin's warning. That humans were not bound by council laws that once called, they would never leave. Core wondered if they were chasing a savior, or walking into the jaws of something far worse. On the sixth day, the sensors went wild. Lysa's voice broke the silence. Multiple contacts, incoming fast. The Voroth had found them again. 3 swarm ships dropped from the void ahead, their hulls shifting like liquid metal, their black eyes glowing faintly red. The first shot hit hard, making the ship's frame groan, shields at 50%. Fallen shouted. Core ordered evasive maneuvers, and Lysa threw the ship into a spin. Weaving between drifting wrecks, beams of green light cut through the darkness. Passing so close they lit the inside of the cockpit, the swarm ships were faster. But Hope's End was smaller. They ducked through the shattered hull of a massive freighter. Emerging on the other side as one of the Voraths slammed into the wreck behind them. Still 2 more pursued. The stealth drive flickered. The system. Straining under the constant fire? "We can't outrun them like this," Lysa shouted. Core's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't outrun them," he said. "We hide." He ordered the ship to drift. Engines cold. Lights off. They slipped between 2 massive battleship wrecks locked together in a slow, endless spin. The Voroth ships swept past, their sensors searching, but they didn't slow when the danger passed. Lysa restarted the engines. Everyone breathed again, but no one felt safe. An hour later, they reached the edge of the blue light. It was not a planet at all. It was a station. But unlike any they had seen before, its surface was smooth, silver, and seamless, with no visible doors, windows, or weapons. The blue glow came from a single sphere at its center. Slowly rotating as they approached, the ship's systems flickered. The AI spoke for the first time in hours, its voice softer than usual. Docking sequence. Accepted. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. None of them had sent any signal. Without touching the controls, the ship began to move, drawn toward the sphere, the closer they came. The more the blue light filled the cockpit, wrapping the crew in a strange calm, but beneath that calm, Core felt something else, a presence. Vast and old, it was watching them, measuring them, and in that moment he knew they had been found, not the other way around. The blue light swallowed the hopes, and it was not blinding but soft, almost warm, as though it wanted them to feel safe, yet no one on the bridge felt safe. Lysa's hands hovered over the controls, ready to take back manual flight at any moment. But the ship moved as if invisible hands guided it. Every panel, every display, flickered in rhythm with the glow, like the ship's heart was beating in time with something outside. As they passed the outer shell of the station, they saw that it was far larger than they thought. The silver surface stretched 4 kilometers, in every direction, smooth and perfect, without a single flaw or mark of age. It was not built like any known station. There were no seams, no welds, no signs of construction. It looked as if it had simply grown there. A part of the void itself, the sphere of light at its center, rotated slowly, casting gentle waves of blue across the hull of Hope's End. Cor watched it with a frown. "This place isn't human," he said quietly. Fallen, the engineer, glanced at him. "But it feels human." Nobody answered that. The ship slowed, coming to a halt before a dark circle on the station's surface. At first it looked solid. Then, like ripples spreading across water, it opened. No noise. No hiss of air. Just a silent widening until it was large enough for them to pass through. The ship drifted inside, swallowed by the silver walls, the opening sealed behind them, leaving only the blue glow to guide their way. Inside was not a hangar like they expected. It was a vast chamber of light and shadow. Structures hung in the air without support, glowing faintly, moving slowly as if floating in water. The walls shifted subtly, their patterns changing with every second. It felt alive, the AI announced in its calm voice. Gravity stable, atmosphere breathable, docking complete. No one had touched a single control. The crew stepped out cautiously, their boots making soft echoes on the smooth floor. The air was warm, with a faint metallic taste. Cor scanned the space, one hand near the sidearm on his belt. They walked deeper into the chamber, their shadows stretching far behind them in the shifting light. Then they saw it, a figure. Standing at the far end of the chamber, tall, broad-shouldered, unmoving, the light seemed to bend slightly around him, as if his presence pulled at the air. He wore no armor, no visible weapons, just a simple dark coat that brushed against the floor. His hands were at his sides, relaxed, but his eyes, they were sharp, steady, and locked on them from the moment they entered. Nobody spoke at first. The figure waited, letting the silence grow heavy between them. Finally, Cor stepped forward. His voice low. "We come on behalf of the Galactic Council," he said. The man tilted his head slightly, his gaze never leaving Cor's face. "You come because you have no one else," he said, his voice deep, calm. It was not a question. Cor swallowed. "The Voreth are destroying everything. I know," the man said, cutting him off. His tone was not cruel, not impatient, but final. He had no need for long explanations, he already understood. Lysa stepped forward, her voice tense. "We were told. The Voreth feared you." The man's eyes shifted to her, and for a heartbeat, she felt as though he could see through her past, her thoughts, her fear. "They don't fear me," he said. "They fear what I will do." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Cor straightened, forcing his voice to stay steady. "We are here to ask for your help." The man looked at him for a long moment, then stepped forward, his boots making no sound on the floor. When he was close enough for them to see the fine lines of old scars across his face, he said, "I told your galaxy never to call me again." Fallen shifted uncomfortably. Cor did not step back. "This is different. If they win, there will be nothing left to call anyone." The man's gaze softened slightly, but only slightly. He turned away, walking toward a narrow path that led deeper into the station. "Follow me," he said. Without looking back, they obeyed, their footsteps echoing in the vast silence. The path opened into another chamber, smaller but lined with strange objects, weapons unlike any the crew had seen, their surfaces humming with energy. Along one wall were star maps, but not of the current galaxy. These showed the galaxy as it had been thousands of years ago. Marked with red paths and glowing points of battle, the man stopped at a console in the center of the room, his fingers moving over its surface without touching it. The star maps shifted, showing the present worlds burning, fleets falling, the Vorath swarms spreading. He stood there for a long moment, then spoke without turning. "I'll come," he said. The crew exchanged quick glances of relief, but the man's next words froze the air. "You won't like what happens next." The blue light around the chamber deepened, as though the station itself was reacting to his choice, somewhere far outside, unseen by the crew. Ancient systems began to awaken. The man finally turned back to face them. "Get your ship ready," he said. "We leave at once." The man walked ahead of them through the silver corridors. His steps steady and unhurried, the crew followed, their eyes darting to the walls that shifted gently, their colors and patterns flowing like slow-moving clouds. It was as if the station itself was alive and listening. No one spoke, because it felt wrong to break the silence. Finally, they entered a smaller chamber round. With a single table in the center and chairs around it, the light was dimmer here, softer, as though meant for conversation. The man sat. First, motioning for the crew to join him, Kor took a seat opposite. With Lysa and Fallen to his sides, the two council agents standing near the door, the man leaned back, studying each of them in turn. "You want me to fight your war?" he said, not as a question, but as fact. Kor nodded. "Yes, the Vorath are. I know what they are." The man interrupted, his voice calm but carrying weight. "I know their numbers, their paths, their purpose." Lysa frowned. "How?" "We barely reached you without being destroyed." The man's eyes shifted to her. "I hear everything," he said. "Even in the silence of the void, there are whispers. And I have been listening a very long time." He reached into his coat and placed something small on the table. It looked like a simple black stone at first. But when it caught the light, faint shapes moved inside it. Images of fleets, burning worlds, screams that could almost be heard. "This is their story," he said, "and mine." He told them about the first time the Vorath entered the galaxy. Long before most of the current council races had risen from their homeworlds, they were not just a swarm, they were a will. A single mind scattered across countless bodies. They consumed not because they were hungry, but because they believed. They were the only life worth existing. No negotiation, no surrender, no peace. And once, long ago, they had reached Earth. The crew leaned forward. "We fought them," the man continued. "Not with words, not with alliances, but with everything we had. We broke their fleets, burned their hives, hunted them across the black until they fled. But the galaxy looked at us after that and decided we were too dangerous to keep around." His tone did not change, but the weight of his words settled heavy in the room. "They asked us to leave." Lysa's voice was quiet. "And you did?" "Yes," the man said. "Because we did not want to become the thing they feared we were." His gaze sharpened. "But now they call again." Kor straightened. "If you could drive them back before, you can do it again." The man gave a slow, humorless smile. "I can do it again, but you will not like how Fallen shifted in his seat." "What do you mean?" The man leaned forward slightly, his eyes locking on Fallon's. "I don't fight to protect your politics, your borders, your fragile pride," he said. "I fight to end threats permanently." The silence in the room deepened. He continued. "If I move against the Vorath, I will not stop at pushing them back. I will burn them out of every system. Tear down every nest, destroy every vessel. I will make sure no living piece of them remains. And when I'm done, you'll look at me the same way you did before, and you will want me gone again." No one spoke for several long seconds. Finally, Kor said, "If that is the cost of survival, then so be it." The man studied him for a moment, then gave a single nod. "Good," he said simply. He rose from the table, and the station seemed to respond. The floor beneath them thrummed. The walls brightened slightly. "Your ship will be refitted," he said. "Weapons, shields, drives, all upgraded, all integrated with mine." Lysa frowned. "Yours? You have a ship?" The man's expression barely changed, but there was the faintest shadow of a smile. "You'll see it soon enough," as they followed him deeper into the station. They passed through long halls lined with strange dormant machines. Some were the size of small fighters, others as large as battleships, folded into compact, silent shapes. Every one of them hummed faintly as the man walked by, as if waking from a long sleep. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever this place was, it was not just a station, it was an armory, a forge, and a tomb, all at once. They reached a massive door, its surface covered in marks that looked like scars. The man placed his hand against it, and slowly it opened. Beyond was a vast hangar, and in the center of it, suspended above the floor, was a ship unlike any they had ever seen. Its hull was black, smooth, and seemed to drink in the light. Its edges blurred slightly, as if it did not exist entirely in their space. It radiated presence, the kind that made even Lissa take an involuntary step back. "This," the man said, his voice steady, "is the Vigil's wrath." The name alone seemed to echo in the chamber. "It sleeps until I call it," he continued. "And now, I am calling it." The crew stood in silence, watching as faint lines of light began to trace themselves along the hull. The ship was waking, and with it, so was the one creature the Vorath had feared for centuries. The Vigil's wrath did not launch with a roar. It moved like a shadow peeling away from the darkness, silent but unstoppable. The hull absorbed the light around it, making it seem as though the ship was carving a hole in reality itself. The crew of Hope's End stood on their bridge, watching as their small vessel slid into formation beside the massive warship. Their own ship now gleamed with new plating, new weapons, and drives that purred with alien precision. It felt like they had been reborn, but next to the Vigil's wrath, they still felt small. The human's voice came over the coms, calm and steady. "Follow my lead. Stay close, and do not question what you see." No one argued. The two ships slipped out from the silver station, the massive hangar door, sealing behind them without a sound. The blue glow faded into the distance, leaving only the cold black of space ahead. They entered the dead corridor again, but this time it felt different. The drifting wrecks seemed to turn away as the Vigil's wrath passed. Shadows that had stalked their earlier journey now kept their distance. The air on Hope's End was tense, but there was an unspoken feeling. They were not prey anymore. They were the thing to be feared. It took less than a day to reach the first Vorath patrol. 3 swarm ships moved to intercept, their black carapace hulls shifting in the faint light. The Vigil's wrath did not slow. Kor expected the usual exchange of fire, but instead, the human ship seemed to shimmer, its edges blurring. In an instant, it was behind the Vorath ships. No jump signature, no flash. It had simply moved. Weapons flared for less than 2 seconds, and the Vorath vessels shattered silently, their wreckage drifting apart like dust in a breeze. Lissa whispered from the pilot's chair, "That wasn't a fight. That was execution." Kor didn't reply, his eyes fixed on the warship ahead. He had been in battles his whole life, but he had never seen death delivered so precisely, so coldly by the time they reached Allied space. Rumors had already spread. The last surviving ships from the outer systems had seen flashes of something black moving through the swarm's territory. Some called it a phantom, others a god. When the Vigil's wrath emerged from hyperspace near the capital defense grid, every scanner in the system locked on. Defense ships scrambled to intercept, their captains shouting warnings over open channels. The human's voice cut through the chaos. "Stand down. I am not here for you," on the Council's main command. The station officers froze as the warship approached. It dwarfed their largest carriers, yet it moved with the grace of a hunter. Its presence was wrong. Their instruments struggled to measure it, as though the ship refused to be fully seen when the docking clamps engaged. An uneasy hush fell over the entire station. The human stepped off first, his boots quiet against the polished deck. Behind him, Kor, Lissa, Fallen, and the 2 agents followed. The air seemed to grow heavier in his presence. Some council guards instinctively stepped back. Others lowered their eyes. It was not fear of his weapons. It was fear of him. The council chamber was already full when they arrived. Every delegate stared as the human walked to the center without waiting to be invited. No one spoke. Finally, Chancellor Vale broke the silence. "You came," he said, his voice betraying both relief and unease. The human nodded once. "I came." The Calari ambassador leaned forward, her tone sharp. "Will you fight for us?" The human's gaze shifted to her. "I will fight," he said. "But not for you. I fight to end the Vorath." Murmurs filled the chamber, some in approval, others in anger. The Skeel delegate's voice rose. "You mean to destroy them completely? That is extreme." The human stepped closer to the table, his voice low, but carrying to every corner of the room. "Extreme is letting them live to come back again." Kor watched as the tension rippled across the delegates. The human didn't plead, didn't negotiate, didn't ask for permission, simply told them what would happen. "The swarm is on its way here," he continued. "You have days. Maybe less. I will meet them before they reach you, without waiting for dismissal." He turned and walked out. Kor followed, along with his crew, back aboard Hope's End. They watched as the Vigil's wrath began to move, its black hole blending with the dark beyond the defense grid. Lysa exhaled slowly. "He's not coming to defend the capital," she said. "He's going to hunt them." Kor nodded, his eyes fixed on the warship ahead, and in that moment he understood why the Vorath feared humans. It was not just their strength, their weapons, or their ships. It was their will, the relentless, unstoppable decision that once made could not be undone. The Vigil's wrath vanished into the black. No flash, no warning, only the quiet, terrible certainty that when it returned, the galaxy would not be the same. Asterisk, the Vigil's wrath cut through the void like a silent predator. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary movement. Its black hole seemed to merge with the darkness. Only the faint, pulsing lines of light along its surface marked it as alive. Inside, the human stood at the center of his command deck, hands resting lightly on the console, eyes fixed on the tactical map. Red symbols bloomed across the display, the Vorath swarm, moving in a thick wave toward the capital. Kor and the crew of Hope's End followed from a distance, their own ship hidden in the shadow of a drifting asteroid. They were not part of the coming battle. They were only witnesses. And even from here, they felt the weight of what was about to happen. The Vorath fleet was vast, thousands of living ships, their hulls alive with shifting plates, their engines throbbing like the hearts of beasts. They moved with terrifying unity. Each one guided by the mind that bound them together. They had crushed fleets without slowing, devoured worlds without hesitation, but now they slowed. The swarm's formation rippled. Something had entered their path. The Vigil's wrath appeared alone in the emptiness. No escort, no backup. The swarm paused for a heartbeat that stretched into uneasy silence. And then the Vorath ships began to move again. They thought they could overwhelm it with numbers. They were wrong. The human's voice echoed across his deck, calm and final. "Engage." The warship responded. Like a living thing, its black hole split open in lines of blinding light. Weapons unfolding from impossible angles. The first volley was silent in the void. But the results were thunder in the minds of those who watched. Dozens of Vorath ships were torn apart before they even fired a shot, their wreckage scattering. Like dust in solar wind, the swarm screamed, not in sound, but in the psychic pulse they always carried. Even aboard Hope's End, the crew felt it. A wave of rage and sudden sharp fear. Lysa gripped the console, her voice low. "They've never sounded like that before." Kor nodded, his eyes locked on the battle. "They've never faced him before." The Vorath retaliated, beams of green and arcs of burning plasma slamming into the Vigil's wrath. But instead of burning through, shots vanished against its hull. Swallowed whole, the human ship moved forward. Each step of its advance marked by precise, devastating strikes. Every shot found its mark. Every target was destroyed. There was no chaos, no random exchange. It was a hunt, and the human was the hunter. The swarm began to break formation, not to attack, but to flee. Some turned away completely, pushing for the edge of the system. Others scattered in different directions, trying to escape his reach. The human's voice came again. No escape. "Fuck!" The Vigil's wrath split into 3 blurred images of itself, each one tearing into a different group of Varoth ships. Whether it was an illusion or something worse, the result was the same. There was nowhere to run. The battle did not last hours. It did not even last one. When the swarm's last ship broke apart in a silent bloom of fire, the black hole of the Vigil's wrath floated alone in the void. No debris came near it, as if space itself avoided touching the ship. On Hope's End, the crew sat in stunned silence. It was not the victory that silenced them, it was the method. There had been no hesitation. No mercy, no survivors. The human had not fought to win a battle, he had fought to end a threat. Transmission opened on There Comes. The human's face appeared, shadowed by the dim light of his bridge. "It's done," he said simply. Core straightened, the swarm. All of them. The human nodded once. All of them. There was no celebration, even the capital, when the news reached them. They did not cheer. They were alive, yes, but deep in their hearts. They knew the truth. The thing they had feared was not the Varoth anymore. It was the one who had destroyed them. The human turned his ship away from the Allied systems without another word. Core called after him over the comms, "Where will you go?" The answer came after a long pause, "Back to where you will not call me again." The Vigil's wrath vanished into the black. No hyperspace flash, no signal to track, just gone. And yet Core knew somewhere out there, it was still watching. Waiting for the next time the galaxy forgot why it should never call a human. Far beyond the edge of mapped space, in a quiet place where no one dared to look, the warship drifted back into its hidden cradle. The silver station welcomed it home, its blue glow pulsing softly. The human stepped off onto the silent deck. Walking alone down the long corridor, and though no one could hear him, he spoke into the stillness. "They won't be ready next time.